the main cause of the ruinous revolution that swallowed up some 60 million of our people, I could not put it more accurately than to repeat: men have forgotten God. That's why all this has happened. When he talks about 60 million people, do you know what he's talking about? The 60 million people that have been swallowed up by the revolution. What is he talking about? What happened in the community? People who still want to be Christians and faithful, what happened to them? They were killed. Hundreds upon thousands upon millions of Christians and people who don't want to be under a godless political system were killed. 60 million of them. Stalin, they say even more than Hitler, he's killed so many people, right? And the people that was even after him. Persecuting people. Under this idea that men can do great work. And we're seeing how, even they're seeing the evils of the Tsar and what he was doing just causing people to suffer. But even how much more a godless political system just killed people for just because they wanted them to believe in something. This is what happens when we as Christians continue in our sin, continue in our evil, and then we continue to not live out our faith as we should. That we're not being inflamed and igniting that fire that has been in us. This is what the effect of atheism is in our life, okay? This is how atheism affects our life. This is a very extreme case, but it's real. Your great-great-grandparents, even your grandparents, can remember when this all happened. It was in the newspaper, the Bolshevik Revolution. This is not still only 80, not yet 100 years yet. In your lifetime, or at least in close to your lifetimes, this has happened. To a Christian nation of Russia becomes a godless nation of Russian people too. This is how atheism affects us. When we stop to put God in our life, this is what happens. This is what happens to us. It's not because there were no Christians, but because there were Christians who were not living their faith, allowing sin to happen. Okay, this is how it affects our life. Atheism darkens the light that God has given to us. Okay, and I want to read a quote from you from 1 John chapter 1. 6. This is the message which we have heard from him and declare to you, that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. If we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth. Okay? This is about our fire. From Bishop Michael and Shibuachin and the topic we've heard so far, when we walk in the darkness and put out that pilot light or cover up that pilot light, that light that's been given to us, we lie and do not practice the truth. The truth has been given to us. But when we lie, or when we don't say, we actually walk in that light, but walk in the darkness, we're truly walking as following in lies. Satan is known as the father of lies. Okay? This is what happens. We allow atheism to darken the light that God has given to us. Then the question remains, if we're going to talk about all this atheism, I ask you guys, why do you believe in God? I talk about the why there's no God and stuff. Why do you guys believe in God?
Because he loved us first.
Say it again?
He loved us first.
He loved us first? Okay, what else?
To explain all the inexplicable things in this world, I think there should be God.
To explain all things about this world, is God the answer for that?
I said to explain all the inexplicable things in this world, there probably is a God.
Okay. Were you going to say something? Can you say a little louder? Without sacrifice, there's no what? No life. How do you guys know that? It's a belief in it, right? Because, kind of like how you just mentioned earlier, right? If you look at nature, how do we look at nature and believe that there's a God? Can't take to it Can man explain everything about the world? And actually, when we do explain, like you learn in science class, what does it take for life to be there? Huh? What are some of the laws of nature, right? Does it seem kind of inexplicable that the precision that's needed for hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen and methane and the water and the air to be so perfect for life to start? You know, when these, like I said, I mentioned about like the liking to watch Nova and learning about this, they're trying to do string theory to explain how the world began. They still don't know why all these things came to be. They said it just happened for no reason, right? Just happened. Things hit each other, that's just it. But all this precision in life, how, we talk about gravity and how precise, how many decimal places we have to get the perfect number to have it perfect as we know it, right? Or the speed of light, or the laws of thermodynamics, or E equals mc squared, right? All these things, how perfect when you look at all these numbers, they had to come together. And if you look at it, like if you look at the odds of that happening randomly, you probably could have won the lottery 100 times before this would happen in an instant, with nothing else causing it to happen. Right? When we look at nature itself, we can't explain all these things unless we believe that there's a creator who made it to be, right? That's one way, right? We're just looking at nature. Evidence from nature helps us to believe that there is a God. What about from human beings? What would you say? What do you guys think? Why are we believing God? If you're looking at, I gave you the example of evidence from nature. What from human beings helps us to believe that there's a God? What is that?
Miracles.
Miracles, okay. We see people to do things that are unexplainable, right? What else?
Formation of the baby.
Say again?
Formation of the baby.
Formation of the baby. Like we didn't do it. Like how that all comes to be, right? Even like human bodies, you look at ourselves, the precision of how life comes together, right?
The mind.
The mind. What about the mind?
You can't really put a hand on where the mind is.
Because truly, there's a brain,
Yeah.
but truly what the mind is, and that's why I wrote reason. How we can understand things even before we see it. Like we can understand concept before we even understood what it is. Like even like you could think of Sir Isaac Newton when he was observing life to define gravity, but he had a thought in his head, like trying to comprehend why all this is happening before he even noticed, recognized what he saw his whole life, right? We are able to reason more than any other, like no other animal has our ability to reason and to understand these things about more than ourselves, right? So that helps us understand there's something more to us. There's a spirit, there's a soul to us that we understand that helps us to believe in God. And then we also have faith, right? If we didn't have faith, we wouldn't believe in God, would we? But I put the quote from St. John's Gospel that he said to Thomas that I think many of us should know, right? Blessed are those. It says, Thomas, blessed because you have seen me, you have believed. But blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. Yet have believed.
What about evolution?
Okay, that's a good question, right? We haven't seen it, have we? But through science, we come to believe, right? When we get a little closer to the end. But we see what science is providing for us, so we're understanding all of these things, right? But how do we explain things that we haven't seen? Like we talk about like miracles and all these other things. How do we explain that? Does science be able to prove it or show it? How those things happen? No, right? Evolution itself, can we actually prove everything of evolution? Like where did human come from? If you can follow the laws of the theory of evolution. From what? But what is missing? Huh? Missing the right? Have they found the actual person or the group of monkeys that became humans? That's called a missing link, right? They've never yet to be able to make that connection where monkeys became men, right? We have like Neanderthal man and other man and all these other things, right? But they're still looking for that missing link, right? And so evolution itself doesn't prove everything that we see, right? We see all the stuff that we're digging up and science can kind of prove, but it doesn't prove everything completely, right? So does that make it completely true? That we can say that that's the way it is? No, right? But so much evidence, and the evidence is there, so people put their trust in it, right? But we have to understand that we have a faithfulness, a faith that helps us to believe without even seeing, because there's something more to life than what we see, okay? And finally, we have to experience, okay? Why do we believe in God? It's because of experience. Especially us who are Orthodox Christians. We are called to experience God. Because if you don't experience God, how could we ever truly believe in Him? Okay? How could we ever believe in Him? Every Sunday we partake of the Qurbana. And through our faith and our belief and our trust into God,